Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin, and today my topic is how we should have a path for citizenship for Dreamers. Allowing a path to citizenship for Dreamers will allow DACA recipients to live in the country they've grown up their whole life without fear, and it will benefit them going to school, looking for a job, or even getting a job or in a trade, just so they can set their life up in a country they grew up in. DACA is a thing where people that were, in the country, since they were infants, but they were born in another country. That country they're being now is the U.S. What we have is it allows them to go to school and to obtain a job already, but many of them don't really have a way for a path to citizenship. So they're forced to be away, some cases, from their families because they can't visit them or see them. And most of these people don't know any way how to live because they're American basically because they've grown up with so many friends and family around here that they can't be forced to live somewhere else. In 2012, Obama spoke about the failure of Congress to pass the DREAM Act, which he provided a path for citizenship for certain immigrants brought to the country, them being illegally as children. He said that in the absence of the congressional action, the Department of Homeland Security would institute a temporary program to defer deportation for eligible individuals who do not present a risk to national security or public safety. So right there is a whole evaluation of how DACA is. How it affects my audience is, I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people have friends that we don't know about it, but they weren't born in this country and they're living here illegally. And I see them as, the person I grew up with. I don't see them as someone else from another country just because these friends that I have, I've seen and been with them my whole entire life. Some of the main points that I'll be really talking about is just the fear of deportation and what a lot of these dreamers have to live in. Another is this has been addressed before. It's a DREAM Act, which is a path to citizenship that allows dreamers an easy way to citizenship, but there are its rules. Many people wonder how many people are in DACA, and doing some research. As of September 4th of 2017, there were 800,000 recipients according to USCIS. There were people who met the DACA eligibility criteria. The Migration Policy Institute, a non-partial think tank, estimates that 1.3 million met the criteria and could have applied. I do know a couple of friends that are in DACA, and I've spoke with some of them how they wouldn't know what to do if they were to go to another country other than the U.S. just because such a different culture. You pretty much have to start from the bottom. And I've done some research that in many cases, if that gets revoked and you can get deported or your DACA taken away, and it's been in some cases where it's been in like small traffic violations. I did some research. There's one DACA recipient who was deported from his court against the federal government. Another was stripped of DACA status who had status reinstated. The ACLU has filed a class action lawsuit against the Trump administration, arguing it has a practice of unlawful and arbitrary revoking DACA grants and work authorizations based on unproven allegations or low-level offenses such as traffic violations that do not disqualify the individual from the program. So this right there means that if you are a DACA recipient and you have so much get pulled over for a traffic violation, that puts you honestly at risk to get your whole thing taken away, or in some cases, if it's a little bit more serious, deported. You know, I get what they're trying to do. They don't want criminals. They don't want people living in a country that, you know, are doing these crimes. They'd rather have their country they were born in to deal with it. But come on, like traffic violations, that's just we all commit those, man. Sometimes they're not even in our control. We're gonna move on towards the DREAM Act, and I'm gonna explain what it is, and I think it's a really cool act that will do a great path to citizenship for Dreamers. That comes in 3 different steps is what I looked into. The first step is a CPR, and an individual can obtain that by having entered the U.S. under the age of 18, no prison more than a year, or has 3 more offensive of 90 days or more incarcerated. They are admitted into an institute of higher education, so like a community college or has graduated from high school, or has a GED, or is currently enrolled to obtain their GED. So that's the first step. After that, it'll enable you to qualify for LPR, which is a lawful permanent residence. This does require just a few more steps, but nothing that's super difficult. 2 years of higher education, so you've been in college, community college for 2 years or more. If you're in the military, you've done 2 or more years of service, or you've been discharged honorably. And then work, you've been employed for over 3 years. So having that is not complete citizenship, but it does allow you to travel outside the US, which is pretty nice. And they're not super hard tasks you need to do to complete them. Step 3 is simple as well. It's if you've had the LPR for about 5 years, you can apply to become a citizen. So, like I said, I think Dreamers shouldn't have to live in fear of, I could get deported today, I could be kicked out of the country I've lived in my whole life. No one should have that fear. Everyone should have a place to call home. That for me is just unmoral to take someone away from their families like that. I believe that if the DREAM Act gets considered more and under consideration gets approved, I think it'll do a lot better job in, you know, having good citizens that haven't, you know, are criminals, or what I'm trying to say is it'll be able to pick out the really good Dreamers that want to be successful in here and be a good citizen in the U.S. And I think the DREAM Act is a great way, you know, and a great plan in order to do that. I'm going to close it off by a really good quote that Barack Obama said, who explains what the Dreamers are, and, you know, in a whole 2 paragraphs explains the whole situation. These are young people who study in our schools. They play in our neighborhoods. They are friends with our kids. They pledge allegiance to the flag. They are Americans in their heart, in their minds, in every single day but one, on paper. They were brought to this country by their parents, sometimes even as infants. And after having no idea that they are undocumented until they apply for a job, or a driver's license, or a college scholarship. Put yourself in their shoes. Imagine you've done everything right in your entire life, studied hard, worked hard, maybe even graduated at the top of your class, only to suddenly face the threat of deportation to a country that you know nothing about, with a language you may not even speak. That right there is a very, very awesome quote by him, and those words almost can put you in their shoes, what they deal with. Anyway, thank you guys. There's my audience.